Mr. Nwankwo, what are you saying? I mean, we know that the law clearly prescribes that to hold political office, you cannot, you must not have a record. But are you saying that, say, people who have a record too should not be allowed to associate with political parties?
No, that is not what I'm saying. They should not be put in positions of trust.
Is anyone in a position of trust?
No, that is what I'm saying. Listen, if at within the last political dispensation, there was a particular member of the National Assembly, a senator, who came out to say that some of the senators here were involved in criminal activities when he was at Mayverton in one of the police formations. And he said it. The whole nation heard it. And of course, there was a firefighting approach.
Didn't he withdraw that statement eventually?
Oh, because of the Nigerian factor.
Oh.
Are you expecting...
Who was going to run with that?
No, are you expecting him not to withdraw that statement when he's sitting right there in their midst? Of course he has to do that.
Even though he was at Milverton and he has his facts, he still withdrew it?
Of course he has to do that. That is the political factor in the political... That is the Nigerian factor in the political equation.
Okay, so as far as we know in the Senate right now, nobody has a record. Maybe they were facing charges. But right now we're asking about those who have records. Are you saying that they should not be allowed to associate with political parties? That's the question.
Well, they should not. They are free. Of course, the Constitution allows them to associate with every person. Even a condemned criminal has a right, has his fundamental rights intact. The point I'm making is that they should not be allowed to stay close to positions of trust. It doesn't rhyme with the political history of any nation that is geared towards political upliftment. And that is why we keep moving in a vicious circle. We are talking about political leadership and the imperatives and the platform for the election of some of these political office holders. When this is skewed, it still becomes a very huge problem.
Yes, you say political protest. That's what's causing that. But in spite of that, all those activities still constitute themselves as some sort of insecurity. But from the way we respond to it, our security agencies, how they're going about it, the results they're getting, if you call them results, are we doing the right things?
Well, I will score them slightly above 40%. The reason is that when you are dealing with terrorism and espionage and counter-espionage, it's purely an intelligence work. And if the Federal Republic of Nigeria will tell me today that within this whole period of Boko Haram, that they don't have the resources, the technology, the education to infiltrate that network, then it's unacceptable. It's a failure of intelligence. And I think what we are just doing is that we are relying so much on the mechanical aspect of intelligence work.
Would it be tenable to you if they were to tell you that where we're coming from, we had practically or virtually nothing on ground, as they say, and so they literally, as they also did refer, had to practically just start from the scratch, and then they had to chase, see how much they can catch, and see how they can eventually overtake them, and so that perhaps they may say explains why they were slow on the blocks.
Yeah, well, it boils down to the political leadership question. I'll give you some classical instances that the society is designed to live above some of these negative indices. The leadership of the society, especially when you feel you are incapacitated, you are free to mobilize people that will assist you in going about. The armor tank you see, the engineers that built the armor tank never knew what they were constructing. That is what they told them. They were constructing tanks for water reservoirs at the war front. But the leadership knew what they wanted them to. But because they didn't want the information to move from that platform to other platforms, they mobilized them, brought them together, gave the different segments of that assignment, and they went ahead and did that. If you remember the Manhattan Project, that was also what happened. You see, you have to identify the problem on the ground and then design the way to go about it. But this is purely an intelligence work. Before Marwa came here, we all knew that Oyinlola kept telling Nigerians and Lagosians that there was no bitumen. What a very funny way of reasoning. That there was no bitumen in the Federal Republic of Nigeria and you are so incapacitated that you cannot import sand. And when Marwa came, bitumen became available and massive road repairs started going on. Marwa also met a very, very intimidating level of armed robbery campaign in Lagos. The Operation Sweep was this reaction.
You know,
So we are talking about forensic reaction to crisis, not just moving along because you have police, you have this. There must be some intellectually driven approach to some of these problems. Not on the pages of the
Mr. Nwankwo,
newspaper,
allow me
not
comment
the EFCC
here.
approach.
A minute here, Mr. Nwankwo. We'll also talk about the police, quite frankly. But again, let's look at other forms of crime. If we leave the Boko Haram issue, what about kidnapping? It's become a daily affair to the extent that the seniors, the very seniors in our societies, have become the target of these kidnappers. Is the police doing enough to really arrest the situation?
Well, of course, I have said that there is a very purely mechanical approach to some of these problems. And I believe that placing more reliance on the intelligence arm will be more effective. And also, if you look at the way policing is done in other jurisdictions, you find out that there is massive participation on the part of the public. That is completely non-existent there. Because we know some of these people. We know where they are staying. But you find out that the public is extremely apathetic to what is going on because of the previous experiences they've had in the past. I remember, and I'm telling you authoritatively, in those days, there were times you go and write petitions to the police telling them that so and so people were doing so and so things. Those people you complain about will be the ones that will bring those letters to your house to come and show you wrote so and so to the police. So that was the position then. So we need, if there is no political will and there is no intellectually driven platform for some of these things, we keep moving in a vicious circle. Some of these things can be solved, they are solvable. There is no problem Nigeria is confronting today that has not been addressed by some other communities. Nobody is asking this present government to invent any principle of governance, any principle of security. Nobody. What we are saying is just copy what is obtainable in other jurisdictions.
And you're saying that there is no peculiarity to us, you know, that we can just, exactly as Jiminy was, saying that we can just copy the hook, line, and sinker. There is nothing peculiar about our own particular
the problem is that you have to copy the basics and modify it, and not modify it the way we modify our political,
democracy.
Our democracy, because there is some very, very, a lot of negative indices within our own political platform. And these things, of course, we are put inside, some of them were inbuilt in the constitutional platform to make it impossible for people to even look at it.